good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever part of the world you're from. Um, Thank you, Roman, for actually saying yes to be interviewed for my podcast. So, my name is Nicolette, and I'm the creator for the You're Worthless podcast. So, I would like to say it, You're Worthy podcast.
Oh yeah.
Yes, as I was saying, I'd like to check before we start. I'd like to check like a bit of a quick stock take. What was your impression when you first saw my podcast name?
Yeah, from what I remembered of it, I thought it was neat. I thought it was unique. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely something not of the ordinary. So, well, that's just it. It's about you really asking yourself, are you really worthless or no? So yes, that's the reason why I am inviting you. It's because I want to know your point of view of all of these questions that I have, but also
Yeah.
other people might have as well. So yes. So Roman, can you tell us which part of the world you're from actually?
Yeah. So I live in the US. Obviously, I've lived in the US my whole life. So far I'm up to 25 years old now, but I'm actually from specifically
Okay.
Ohio. I'm from Ohio initially, but I've grown up much of my life in
Ah,
Arkansas, which is like the southern kind of. Some people call it Midwestern, some people call it Southeast, some people just call it South. But it's generally like the southern, just barely the southern part of the U.S., just right in that region.
okay. You were saying Arkansas. Is it Arkansas?
Yeah, Arkansas. It's basically like Kansas, but with the AR in front of
Arkansas.
it.
Oh, I thought
Yeah.
it's yeah.
You would think it
Yeah,
would
it's
be pronounced
Arkansas, right?
Arkansas.
That's how you pronounce it.
It should be, but it's really they technically want you to
No.
pronounce it
Ah.
such as Arkansas. It makes no sense, but that's Arkansas for
The
you, I
silent
guess.
S.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, I'll admit. The spelling does
Okay,
not go along with the
Arkansas. Okay.
pronunciation at all.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. So whenever I'm pronouncing the state, I'll say okay, Arkansas.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just gonna give the listeners a bit of introduction about yourself before I invite you to tell the people more about yourself later on. So to all listeners, we have here Roman Fischer. Is that correct? Am I pronouncing your surname
Yeah,
correctly?
Roman Fisher.
Okay. All right. Who helps people destroy fat without fad diets? He is, of course, a bodybuilder and also at the same time an actor and a model. So pretty diverse background. So Roman, tell us a bit about your childhood.
Yeah, my childhood
Were you
spent,
always, starting out like, oh, I wanna, yeah.
yeah, my childhood was always pretty, luckily I can say it, pretty carefree, not very stressful. Like most childs should not have a stressful background. Some do, sadly, but mine wasn't one of those. For the most part, it was a pretty relaxed childhood. So, yeah, a lot of my childhood consisted of, before I even got into fitness, long before I even got into health and fitness, it was really just, a lot of going to school, of course, coming back home, playing video games, and not really caring about what I was putting in my body. Of course, that's a lot
Okay.
of kids for you. A lot of kids don't really pay attention
Right.
to nutrition. But that was a lot of my childhood, just getting together with friends on the weekends, playing video games, just eating anything in sight, anything and everything, and then just spending time with friends and family in general.
Okay. So okay. And when did you actually start paying attention about your body and whatever it is that you're putting inside?
Right. Yeah, there were definitely a few key factors that played a role in, translating me from where I was to where I'm currently at today. So the first thing was seeing my brother lift weights when I was
Mm.
about 15 years old. Just seeing him pick up the weights for the first time. And, my brother and I, we were both really skinny kids throughout school. But when he started lifting weights, I could notice the difference. Like his strength and his muscle tone and muscle mass increased dramatically. Of course, not overnight, but it gradually got to that point, and I started seeing that difference and that change and that transformation, and that really inspired me to want to do the same exact thing for myself and my own physique. So that was one of the driving factors that got me into the weightlifting side of things.
Yeah.
Now, after that, there was another key event that really pivoted me from where I was to where I am today too. And this really got me into the health and nutrition aspect of things. And it was really a huge serious
Hmm.
matter. It's a lot more serious than the other one. But yeah, seeing, and this was obviously, I mean, this was a rough situation. I mean, this is a rough thing for anyone to deal with, no matter your age, no matter who it is, especially when it's your, loved one or family member, though. So seeing my grandpa and my family just pass away, yeah, that was rough. I'll just be
Mm.
real,
Sorry to hear that.
totally real. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, it's all right, but yeah, I mean, just having that happen though in my family, it's a rough thing to have to put up with. But yeah, he was one guy in my family I was really close to. We live several states away. Much of my family is from Wisconsin, so very Midwestern, but he was from Wisconsin too, of course, and that's where he lived much of his life, in Wisconsin. And then yeah, she got the news, my mom got the news from her brothers who also lived there in Wisconsin. And then they told her, after they told her, she told me and everyone else in the family. He was living here around Arkansas. And that, yeah, when I got the news, I mean, that first, initially it shocked me for a few moments. I mean, I was just like, it's kind of like a slap in the face. It's like, it's weird, Like, I mean,
Mm.
obviously, as much as I hate to say, no one really lives forever, but you still don't expect that to happen, especially just randomly like that, like just to hear that, right out of the blue, so to speak. So I heard that. I was shocked for several moments at least. After that, definitely I could start feeling the effects of it, like the sadness, the depression, and really just yeah, the emptiness, especially when I went to the funeral. That's when it really really hit me, especially. I mean, seeing yeah, just the aftermath, if you want to call it that. I mean, that was rough. I remember breaking down at the funeral, crying, and but yeah, that really did for a good bit of time put me in a depression. But with that being said, and while that was a difficult thing to have to handle and deal with, it also really ultimately inspired me and encouraged me to not want to go down that same path, because what the initial cause of his death was cancer, but his cancer was caused, not completely, but much of it was caused, come to find out, by his sugar addiction. And so that, finding that out and knowing that, and then knowing that I
Mm.
was also a sugar addict myself, I didn't want to go down that same path. And of course, like me being as young as I was barely in my 20s. I think I was only 20 years old when all that went down with my grandpa just passing away. But still, even though I was young, that was going to eventually catch up to me. I mean, surely sugar wasn't going to kill me in the next few years, but it still was going to affect my health negatively. And, ultimately, it could have led me down that same route. So, with that in mind and knowing that, I didn't want to go down that same route. So, that's when I made a very, very close, conscious decision with my health. So, my brother got me into the weightlifting, but then that event really got me into the health aspect of things, because weightlifting's good, and that's obviously part of health. But if you don't have your nutrition and what you're eating dialed in a healthy way, then that weightlifting only does so much. So after I improved that, because of my grandpa, and knowing that I didn't want to, also eat unhealthy and end up like that, I then really turned over a whole new leaf, and not only got healthier with my weightlifting, but my eating habits too. And from there, I felt so great. I felt so much better. And then the only other thing I can bring up that really got me into the health and fitness is researching like all the bad ingredients, all the toxic chemicals and artificial colors and flavors and other
Mm.
ingredients that they'll pump into our foods and drinks. And it's crazy. Like the amount of, toxic chemicals and pesticides and residues and so many other things that they'll put in our foods. It's nuts. Like it is crazy. I mean, if you can't pronounce an ingredient on a certain label, probably you don't want to eat it. That's what I've come to find out. And that's just a good solid general rule by the end of the day. Yeah,
Okay.
just make sure to not eat stuff that you can't pronounce, basically. That's one of the key rules. And also, too, one of the key ingredients to following the ingredients, no pun intended, is making sure there's not a lot of ingredients on the ingredient list. So yeah, that's a lot of it. Just that's really what got me into the health and fitness side of things.
So yeah, you when you were mentioning, I picked up two things that I wanted to ask you about. So the number
Yeah.
one was the addiction on sugar. What was it? What was this addiction that you're talking about? Is it about anything sugary, cakes, dessert, or like what is the how do you define how do you put a quantum on being addicted to sugar and also uh uh not being addicted to sugar? Like what is their threshold? I mean, I haven't read the statistics. I've looked at it, but I don't know. Can you share with us?
Yeah. Yeah, sugar is one of those things that a lot of people get heavily addicted to, sadly. Now, with that said, there are different, types and variations of sugar. There's fructose, which is the natural sugar found in fruits, such as apples, bananas, strawberries, etc. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's also the unhealthy added sugar, and that's called sucrose, and that's the sugar that you really want to cut back on. Now, I'll be honest, both sugars you want to limit, period, but the one that you really want to cut down on as much as possible, if not
Mm-hmm.
eliminate completely, are the, added sugars. So sucrose, that's what you
Mm-hmm.
really want to limit out of your diet and even cut out if you can. So basically, anything like
Oh, oh,
fruits you can have more of, but you still want to only have it like 3 to 4 cups of fruit a day. You don't usually want to have much more than that because too much fruit is also not, too much of anything is not really healthy by the end of the day. But
it's not
have
good.
more
Yeah.
fruit. Yeah. So you can be, it's better to be, I'll put it this way, it's better to be addicted to fruit or natural sugar than, added sugar like cakes, candies, um, you know, high sugar cereals too. So that's what I say on that.
Mm,
Now,
mm.
yeah, that's what I say on that. So just be very mindful of what you're putting in your body, whether it's food or drink. But with that said, just make sure to cut out as much added sugar as you can and then have more natural sugars. But with those natural sugars, just make sure to not don't really go over much more than a few cups of fruit a day.
Okay. So basically, do taking everything in moderation.
Oh yeah, but especially with an emphasis on heavily
Okay.
moderating the added sugar. So
Yeah. I was reading your profile, and then You it said there that you actually help about, I think, maybe more than 50 people now. I don't know what's the number, transform their physical and mental health. So, a few things. What are the common themes that you can observe from these client of yours?
Oh yeah, what are some of the things I can like observe as far as like their transformation?
Yes, transformation.
Okay.
Okay, maybe the cause. What's maybe the yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So some of the things that I've observed whenever I have a client transformation and testimonial, or one of the other, either way, the
Mm-hmm.
biggest thing I can see is their physical transformation. Of course, usually in the form of it's not so much gaining muscle. Usually, I mean, I'll have clients that gain muscle, but it's you can really see the transformation on their like stomach and even on their face and their arms too. Usually in the form of like fat reduction. You can definitely see a huge reduction in fat and body fat on their overall physique. And usually they look more toned up, sometimes a little more muscular, but you can definitely see the reduction in their body fat though. That's the first thing that I observe and see. From there, some other observations I get and things that I pick up on are their energy. It's like it's so much better. They're a lot happier, they're a lot more confident. You can see in their facial expressions that they're actually kind of glowing, so to speak. I know that sounds a little cheesy, but still, they look a lot more just positive, happier, and that you could just tell that they feel
No.
better. You could just tell that they feel
Yeah.
better. Oh yeah. And that those are some of the biggest key things that
Yeah.
I pick up on and that I notice myself.
So, so you're observing like the physical side. So what about their mental state? And
Yeah,
also the demographics of your clients are like more women, more men, and can you say that is it easier for the men to lose weight than the women, or how is it?
yeah, for sure. So really, I'll say it like this. Most of my clients just so happen to be women, and they're usually about middle aged. And honestly, those have been my
No, okay.
some of my best clients too. Not saying that I haven't had good clients in other demographics, of course, but I have had most of my clients that are really, really good and that are very consistent, that are female or woman and middle aged. And so they honestly have, yeah, they've done great. Now, of course, I've had some guy clients that also lose weight pretty well. And it's not so much their gender that determines how well they can lose weight, because I've had guy clients lose weight pretty well too. It's really, it comes
Mm,
down to like how committed they are and dedicated they are by the end of the day. It's how much they want it. That's what really, really, entails how much they lose and how much they don't lose, or how much they want to gain if they're trying to gain muscle. But I will say for the most part, the women have done better in that regard, not because of their gender or anything like that or age, but just more so that they're just more dedicated, it seems. I know it sounds really bad to some of those guys out there, but a lot of these
really?
women, they're, yeah, they're doing good. Yeah. But yeah, they're really doing good with the
Okay.
workouts. They're very consistent. I'll just be honest. I've had some guy clients that are really consistent too. I'm not going to say that that's not true, but they're most of my clients that are very consistent happen to be women that are around middle aged for sure. Yeah, so with that being said, yeah, that's definitely a lot of it. Yeah, they're the most consistent by far.
So do you coach them face to face or online?
Yes, so, if they're in my general area, I could do face to face, but it's really just been all virtual.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. So if, let's say, if there are people out there listening to this right now and they would want to reach out to you, the best way for them to do that is to follow you on Instagram. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, that's one of the ways. You can follow me on Instagram at Roman Fisher Official, or you can follow me on Facebook at Roman Fisher Official, or on YouTube at Roman Fisher Official, or TikTok at Roman Fisher Official. Last but not least, if you want to find me on my website, it's
Okay.
romanfisherofficial.com.
Okay, I see the consistency there across all social media. So basically, it's Roman Fisher official across all social media. I'll be sure to include that in my caption when I publish this episode.
Oh, yeah. Unless you want to go on
So,
Twitter, it's the Roman
yeah, okay,
Fisher.
so can we like zero? Okay, yeah. I mean, I think it's all in Podmatch. So I think I'm just gonna extract all of this information there and then just put it all on the caption.
Awesome.
Yeah. So can we like take a step back on the cancer? Because okay, to be honest, I have close friends and I do have a family member who's been diagnosed with cancer as well. So in you having experienced this yourself, what is actually your take on cancer? When I say take, it means that what do you think are the common causes? I know we've talked about like about sugar,
Right.
but there are also other factors as well, right?
Yeah.
So, in your opinion, what are those, and what's actually happening in the society right now? Where are we heading with this?
Yeah. So, honestly, of course, cancer is such a broad term and such a broad illness. I mean, there's so many different types of cancer, sadly, as much as I hate to say it and admit it. So depending on the cancer will depend on like what the initial causes were from the get-go. I will say, of course, if it's lung cancer, definitely smoking or vaping. I know people think vaping's good. It's not. It's just as bad. I think some people have even come to the conclusion it's worse, but it's at least just as bad from my understanding. So yeah,
Mm,
smoking,
yeah,
vaping, yeah, smoking and vaping are really bad, and that can definitely give you lung cancer. Living in really harsh areas, where the overall just air quality is bad, that also
pollution.
can contribute. Yeah, pollution, just in
Mm,
general, that can contribute to lung cancer as well, sadly. So those are those key things when it comes to lung cancer, the key causes of lung cancer. Now, there's skin cancer that can be caused by the sun, excessive sun exposure. If you're out in the sun for more than 20 minutes, you want to have sunscreen on. Now, with that being said, there are different types of sunscreen.
mm,
And if you have regular traditional sunscreen that most people buy
yeah,
at the store, that's not good either. I know it's crazy to say that because most people think sunscreen by its own right and its own self is healthy, and it's not. I mean, yes, it will prevent you from the UV rays, but regular, sunscreen will actually give you cancer too because it has chemicals in it that can actually give you cancer. So, you might be wondering, what's the
oh
best
my
thing to
gosh.
do? Yeah, what's the best thing to do to avoid skin cancer if you're in the sun a while? Well, if you can't limit your sun exposure, then you can be in the sun longer than 20 minutes and not get cancer. But here's how you do it: you have mineral sunscreen. Mineral sunscreen will not only protect you from the UV rays from the sun, but also mineral sunscreen has no chemicals in it. So you're going to shield your body from the sun naturally without getting chemicals on your body. And it's good because it has zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. Those are natural ingredients that basically act
Mm,
as kind of like a paste. It's a little thick in some brands, so it can stain your clothes, but there's a brand that's really good called Color Essence that I use, and that helps shield the, UV rays from your body. And it's a sunscreen that sits on the, surface of your skin, so it blocks out or has the rays bounce off your skin, more or less. So that's what I recommend in that regard to prevent the skin cancer. Also, blue light that has been known to hurt your eyesight and potentially cause cancer. So having blue light sunglasses, and wearing some sunscreen. I know it sounds crazy, but
Mm,
wearing some
mm.
mineral sunscreen can actually help with the radiation from the blue light. And blue lights, if you don't know, it's typically emitted through like laptops, kind of like what we're using right now. But I have my blue light turned off, so I'm good. I'm good.
Oh yes.
But yeah, blue light from laptops, TVs, cell phones. You can't get away from all these things. That's why it's good to just be really aware of your surroundings, research this stuff, and watch videos like this. So, but that'll help prevent the skin cancer aspect of things. Now, just overall cancer from within your body, the best thing to do is to avoid cancer from developing from inside your body, kind of like the one that my grandpa suffered from.
Yeah.
It really is to watch what you eat,
Mm.
not eat high sugar filled foods, don't have MSG, monosodium glutamine, because that can also cause cancer. It's usually found in salt or, like canned soup. And then also just cut out any and all artificial
Mm.
colors and flavors. Those are some really key things that you can do and follow to really reduce your likelihood of any cancer at all. Now, overall, I'd say the direction we're going in,
Okay.
if we can focus more on, what we're putting in our body with the ingredients, what we're eating, what we're drinking, and if more people can just wake up, so to speak, and actually watch videos like this and not just buy anything they see, buy anything that looks appealing. And if they also cannot get brainwashed into all of these, commercial advertisements for McDonald's, this, that, and just focus more on their health and be more aware.
Yeah.
I feel like then, and also if we can really continue the trend of organic, that's another thing. Eliminating pesticides from your foods and eating organic and natural, that'll help too, because those pesticides are not good for you and could cause cancer as well. So yeah, I feel like if we go down the trend of organic as a society, we'll be good if we really can put an emphasis on that. But if we're not going to focus on eating organic and eating healthy, and if we've been really doing what we've been doing for quite some time, especially here in the US, I don't think that we'll be in pretty good shape, sadly. So what we need to do is, we just need to really focus on our health, what we're eating, what we're drinking, and just have more of a fitness focus.
Mm. So I'm not sure like how it how much is it like how much of the organic stuff in the US because here in where I come from I'm in Malaysia right now. So usually the organic stuff are definitely more expensive than the normal thing.
Yeah.
Do you get the same? Is it the same in the US too?
Generally speaking, it definitely is more. Depending on what you're getting, it might not be much more though. So if you're getting like organic milk, it's gonna be $2 to $3 more, sadly,
Mm,
but it is worth the investment, I will say. Now, like if you're getting
that's
organic
not too bad.
carrots, yeah, it's not too bad exactly. And if you're eating like organic
Yeah.
carrots, it's only maybe like $1 at the most more, if not even like 30-40 cents more from what I've seen. So for the most part, it's not that much more. Now, if you're getting like the milk, it might be just a little more, but for the most part, it's um, pretty reasonable. And honestly, too, how I look at it is while you're investing a little more in your groceries and what you're eating, what you're
Hmm.
drinking, you're actually saving money in the long run. Because by spending just a little more on what you're eating to ensure better
Because
quality
of
in your foods and drinks, you'll save
by not
medical
checking
bills.
yourself into hospital.
Exactly. Exactly. And as
Exactly.
most people should know and probably do know already by now, I would hope you would know by now and don't have to deal with it though, is that medical costs are insane. Now, some countries have it where healthcare's, less or healthcare's free. Sadly, in the US, we don't have that. We should, but we don't. So, with that being said, we just got to eat as clean as
Can you?
possible and try
Yeah.
to
I mean,
keep it.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's. Uh, how is okay, maybe a brief background about how is the healthcare system in the US?
Oh wow. Yeah, well, I guess we can talk about it since it's still health related. So with that being the case, I would have to
Yeah.
say that
Yes.
healthcare in the US is I'll just be blunt, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. So like the thing is, number one, most people can't, or a lot of people, especially in my state, can't afford healthcare. And that's sad because everyone needs healthcare. No one should be, talked out of healthcare. No one should be, you
Deprive
know,
of this
denied or
basic
deprived healthcare.
basic needs.
Exactly. It's a
Yeah.
need, it's a right, and healthcare is no doubt just 100% right. So that's why it definitely should be free. But healthcare in our state, and really just our country, of course, as a whole, it's not free. And it's very expensive, especially, the worse your condition might be or is. So that's the thing, it's expensive. Most people can't afford it. And the ones that can afford it, they still have to go out of pocket and pay co-pays and all this crazy stuff. And it's like that's nuts. You shouldn't have to pay to see the doctor. It's it's ridiculous. Like it's nuts. It really is. But especially the ones that can't afford it. I mean, that's really bad. And that you're just it's really putting money or finances over humanity, and that's where I can't agree with that at all. So yeah, and that's the thing. A lot of people that are against the free healthcare system, their top argument is, well, if you have free healthcare, then the lines will be longer. But in reality, if you have free healthcare, the lines will be just as long. And sometimes I've heard that they're shorter because really in our country, especially when I go to the doctor, there's long lines and our healthcare is not free. So, I mean, really, I'd rather have free healthcare and have just as long of a wait. Because, like, if we're waiting long anyway, may as well get it free. I mean, so that's what I say on that.
Yeah. It's because just now it was breaking a little bit. But it's like it's a catch 22. Like your healthcare is going to be expensive. I mean, all the more reason we need to be aware of what we eat. But still, it's like
Right.
when it happens to us, then it happens. We'll worry about that later. I mean, this is the thing that humans we take things for granted. Well, in where I come from, as a citizen, you're correct. The lines are longer, but we pay very minimal to get ourselves checked out, at least before we go to a specialist. So that's actually pretty okay. But I've been seeing a lot of influencers who are actually moving towards the getting fit and just trying to spread that awareness across. So yeah, my podcast doesn't only talk about that, it talks about everything, and health is wealth, right?
Oh,
Without
yeah.
health, nothing, you can't make anything, you can't make money.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah. So how does your day to day look like? Like what do you do maybe on a weekday or on a weekend? Like as a somebody who's focused on his fitness or any other gigs that you do.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So from day to day, I wake up early, typically around 6 a.m., 6 in the morning. And what I do is I try to get a, morning workout in. If not, I'll do it in the evening at the latest, but I still always get my workout in, whether it's first thing in the morning or in the evening. From there, I make sure to just check, any and all messages from clients, make sure that they're good, make sure that, everything is going good with their meals, workouts, how they're feeling, good stuff like that. Check on any progress that they may have made. Of course, applaud them if they have made some really huge progress. From there, I check, any messages from potential clients, do some cold messaging, warm messaging, try to get, more clients drummed up, more people scheduled on calls to do consultations with and strategy sessions with to help explain how I can help them if they're needing help. And then from there, I just, on the weekends, I'll record content and I'll try to edit it and get it ready for next week. So that way, all my videos are already pre-recorded, pre-planned. So it makes it a lot easier on me
Uh,
for the next week ahead to just upload the video instead of having to record it, edit, upload on that same day. So that's what I do with that. And then from there, of course, I just meal prep. Sometimes I won't always meal prep. I'll just make the meal for what it is, but I'll still make sure to have the meals be made in a quality fashion, and of course have all the calories and macros I need throughout the day as well. And then of course can't go without my creatine hydrochloride, so I include that as well. And then make sure to just follow my 5 day a week workout regimen schedule, and then also, if I have any auditions, I'll knock those out too. Any acting auditions, and then fingers crossed that I get the gig. But that's much of my week. And then, of course, I do coaching calls with my clients when they need my help too.
wow, pretty full.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
it's
you were
pretty
saying
busy.
about food. Yeah, I want to talk about I want to talk about meal prep. Okay, what are your top, can you share with us your top five, I wouldn't say easiest, but okay, fine, top five easiest meals. So you can share what do you have for breakfast, maybe two for lunch, two for dinner, or snacks in between. And also, I want to know about creatine. I've I've been seeing people taking creatine. What is it actually?
Yeah. Okay, so you're wanting to know like how I meal prep throughout the day? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So how I typically meal prep, so what I'll usually do when I do the meal prepping, deal is I'll literally just have one day dedicated where I'll cook, X amount of meals for each day. And typically, I mean, you could do 5 meals a day, you could do 3 meals a day. Of course, you could even do 4 meals a day or 2 meals a day. What I do is for right now, until I get a little closer
Mm.
to show date, because I'm actually trying to compete in a show by early November, so in about 2 months from now. But
Ah,
what I usually do is I just
okay.
make 3 meals each day throughout the next week. So when I do get into the meal prepping mode, I'll just have one day, typically at the end of the week, where I'll just cook out, 3 meals for the next, 6 or 7 days. And that way it's all prepped out and ready. So that way I can just
Really?
pick it up and microwave it and eat it. Typically, what I eat are things like, oatmeal, bananas, or at least a banana, and then like some peanut butter. And then I'll have some chicken for dinner, chicken, jasmine rice, and broccoli and carrots. And then usually for lunch, I might have and sometimes it's very simple. I'll just have like a yogurt, a tub of yogurt, but it has like about 450 calories in it. So I'll just have the whole tub because it has a lot of protein in it. It's not
Mm.
super high in fat, not super high in carbs. So it keeps my
Wow.
macros in check. So yeah, just really a combination of breakfast is mainly, oatmeal, maybe a little milk, 2% or whole milk, just depending on where my calories are and macros. And then, some peanut butter, banana, and then lunch is usually just like a yogurt, maybe a protein bar. And then dinner is grilled chicken, broccoli and carrots, and a little jasmine rice, which I'll eventually be cutting out the rice and just lowering my carbs. Not that carbs make you fat, but just reducing the carbs will help reduce the calories and actually help get me more cut looking because carbs can cause water retention. So when you're trying to get closer to a show date, you want to cut the carbs down. But yeah, that definitely is what my meal prepping
Okay. So
is right now.
what's creatine?
Yeah, so what I do for like content creation, I do two different types of content creation right now. Now, I guess you could even say three. So the easiest, quickest way I just pump out content is maybe like a selfie or like a, you know, actual modeling pic. So maybe I have like a modeling pic in the past that I had, and I will just share it and I'll try to like tie it in with my fitness coaching. So especially if I have like a fitness modeling photo, I'll just share that and tie that in with my fitness coaching. From there, other, you know, techniques that I create content are carousels. So I don't know if you've heard of them, but basically you'll have like two, three, maybe even four or more photos at a time where you can just scroll through on your phone. And that's what I'll typically do for that. I'll just have tips, fitness advice, where I'll have like on a carousel. So for example, I might have a carousel that says how to lose fat or how to gain muscle quickly, some stuff like that. And then I'll just have them scroll through it and I'll give a tip, you know, pick by pick, I'll give a tip. And then at the very end, it'll just be like, which one of these tips helped you? Follow me for more. So that way it gets them interested into then eventually and hopefully following me to then better engage with my content from there and maybe even start a conversation. And then from there, my last thing that I do for content creation in terms of that is making reels. So recording reels and editing them and uploading them and adding some subtitles in to really capture the audience when they see the video or reel. So what I'll do for my reels, I cycle through a few different types of reels of content. So sometimes I'll have like motivational mindset reels. Those are the easy ones because I can just think of some really motivational stuff from my past or even just general motivation, and I'll pump that out. And then some other, types of content I'll put out are like some body weight workouts, shirtless workouts. So some people want to see the six pack, you'll see it there. So that's what I'll do.
Yeah,
Some
but see whether
shirtless,
it's true or not.
exactly. But you'll see the six pack, and then the shirtless workouts. That's another form of content I, put out. And then, sometimes I'll have a tank top on. I'll do like some weighted workouts too. And then the last thing, as far as content goes, in terms of like the kind of content I put out, really, other than motivational mindset reels and workouts, is sometimes I'll just share just pure personal stories and experiences, like maybe how I overcame this, how I overcame that. Yeah, so stuff like that. That's a lot of what I put out. Just a lot of overall motivation mindset content with some fitness content for the most part. And then of course I'll even, throw in some nutritional advice within my fitness content.
Okay. And then thank you for sharing. I think people will be interested to follow you on your social media. Let me know how if your followers increase after them listening to this podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
So you were saying there was one thing that you take together with your meal prep. I think you were mentioning about is it creatine? How do you pronounce it?
Creatine.
It's like an electrolyte drink. Is
uh
Yeah,
yeah, so
creatine. What is that actually?
right. So creatine, there's different types of creatine. There's creatine hydrochloride, there's creatine monohydrate, just to name a couple. So really the one I use is creatine hydrochloride, or creatine HCl for short. What that does is it's a supplement,
Hmm.
vitamin supplement, however you want to phrase it. And what it does is it helps after you drink it. It's usually in the form of a powder that you can mix in with like water or maybe some other type of drink if you want to, but typically just straight water is what most people do, like me. And what it does is whether you take it in capsule form or powder form, it helps with muscular endurance, also muscular recovery, and even muscle growth. So you'll not only help endure your muscles by taking it and help potentially you can even help reduce any muscle soreness, but you can also help with the recovery of that from the soreness. And then also from there, it helps you just perform better in the gym and actually make some, strength and gains in your body. So yeah, that's what I take. And I notice, especially when I'm bulking up, like especially if I'm bulking up, I can tell a difference. But even when I'm trying to cut down, I can tell that my muscle is preserved pretty well. And it also will even add a little muscle. Because even when you're cutting down, you can gain a little muscle. Not as much as if you're bulking up, but if you're cutting from your maintenance calories, you can still add a little muscle. So creatine's really good to give you that extra muscle gain and that muscle boost.
How much of that do you take? Like, do you take in powder form?
Yes,
You
I
add
take
it
it
in
in
your
powder
drink,
form.
water?
Right. Yeah, I take it in powder form, and I recommend taking it in powder form, especially if you can, because the powder form of creatine itself is the best because it's the most potent, and it actually will absorb. The absorption rate is the best compared to the capsule form, because when it's powder, it's already going to absorb into your body pretty quickly. When it's a capsule, it has to release from the capsule, of course, as you might understand. So just having that powder form with your water will absorb that much easier, that much better, that much quicker. Also, between creatine hydrochloride and creatine monohydrate, it is much better to take the creatine hydrochloride because the monohydrate, while it will do what creatine hydrochloride does, the monohydrate version of creatine will actually cause bloating for some people. So if you want to really just cut out that bloating and just look more
Mm.
overall more cut and aesthetic and still have the same effects that monohydrate does, it's just best to take creatine hydrochloride. And then especially taking it in the powder form too at that.
Mm. Okay.
What I
Okay.
and
I'll
the
probably
amount that
look
I
for
take,
some creatine now.
yeah, and the amount that I take, it's good. And the amount that I take too is I'll typically take 2 scoops of it. There's a little small little spoon looking thing inside the creatine powder when you get it in the store. So when I open it up, it's right in there. And then I'll take usually 2 scoops before a workout, 2 scoops after a workout. And then on off days, if I'm not working out like at all, I'll have 4 scoops in the morning, right upon waking. After my coffee, though.
Okay. Okay. Time for me to check on out on some of the creatine out there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So I think I hope I can keep you for a while. I do have a little bit more questions to
Yeah, for
go.
sure.
Um, I see you. I see you advocate about mental health awareness in your profile. So have you ever been diagnosed or you or your family member, friends with any mental health disorder before?
Yeah, so I was actually,
Or what is
you
your
know,
take on this? Yeah.
definitely. When I was younger, I was actually diagnosed with depression. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, depression and even
Mm.
bipolar disorder. So, yeah, they would tell me that,
Oh,
you know, I
okay.
would get depressed, which depression and bipolar are closely related anyhow. But I was told that, yeah, I got depressed, got days where I just felt super low and hard to, be positive, stay positive, especially. And then, of course, they would also tell me that, I had days where I was super, great. And then on that same given day, later in the day, my mood would just, decrease dramatically, almost at a whim. But really, that was a thing I was struggling with. Luckily, I overcame that. And a lot of it, I'll admit, is due to my lifestyle change too. That's helped tremendously and dramatically in terms of reducing my overall depression and also the bipolar disorder. I mean, I'm pretty consistently one way. If I have a bad day, I might, be down for a little bit, but I can pick myself back up and keep it going and be positive for much of the day. But yeah, so that's helped a lot with that. My take on mental health is that it is important, and really mental health, and it sounds crazy, but mental health, as we've already said, health is wealth, of course. It is just health, health in general is wealth. But to be even more specific, the best health that you can ever have, first and foremost, is your mental health. Physical health is very important to you. Like, you have to have your physical health, of course. But if you don't have your mental health in check from the get-go, you can't have your physical health in check, because your mind, that's where everything stems from. Now, you could also argue your heart is where, everything stems from too. And I mean, yeah. But if you don't have your mind in check, nothing really else will be in check in the first place. So you got to really make sure that your mindset and your mind is in the right place at the right time. So make sure your mind is wired the right way. Make sure that you're not focusing on the bad stuff, all the time, like some people do. Don't always look in the bad and everything. Try to look at the good in more things than not. Even if a day isn't going great, I like just reminding myself that there's no bad days, only learning days. So even if a day doesn't go perfect or go great per se, or go according to plan, you're at least going to learn something from that one said day. So you'll come out even either way. And just knowing that bad stuff, when it does happen, when it could happen, it's temporary. It's not going to last forever. So those things in particular have helped me a lot. Just stay positive. And that's going to help anyone listening. So that's really key and paramount. So knowing that, having a good solid mindset, that's where it all starts. Having a healthy mindset and be positive. From there, you want obviously your physical health to be good. But if you don't have your mental health in place and check at the very, start of everything, you're not going to even have the motivation or consistency, especially to better your physical, body and physical health. So my take on it is just being hyper aware of your state, your mindset, your mental state.
So, let's talk a little bit about your personal, the other personal thing that you do. How did you become an actor or a model? How did that
Yeah.
happen?
Yeah, it's funny because you ask. It's really funny you ask because when I was younger, I was always told in school that, I mean, it sounds vain me saying it myself, but I was always told that I was like the pretty guy, the pretty boy. And teachers would call me that, and like yeah, some of the people at the school, it was funny, but yeah, I was told that. And then of course, when I was taking or getting my photos taken rather at my for my senior pictures when I was finishing up high school, they actually, or the photographer said, she sees GQ on me, like the magazine. So that, all those things, like all those
GQ.
seeds,
Wow.
yeah. Oh yeah, all those seeds, if you will, were planted in my mind. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna do something with this. I got to. It'd be crazy not to. So yeah, that's what really inspired me to get into it. And then also my sister used to do some modeling and even a little acting, and that inspired me to want to go down that same route then for myself ultimately. Because of that, I started pursuing this ever since. Yeah, and that's what really got me into it. And then having some friends that also were interested in acting and modeling also helped me want to get into it that much more.
Okay. Awesome. So it's like people complimenting you and you said, "Okay, maybe there's some truth in this. Let me just try it out."
Yeah, exactly. That's a lot of what
And
really
then
got
you
me into
did.
it.
You land your gigs.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So, what was your, what was the, okay, this is, what was the biggest obstacle that you overcame?
My biggest obstacle that I've over my biggest one that I've ever overcame. That's a great question, honestly. So there's been a lot. There has been a lot for sure. Man, it comes down to two things. Let's see here. I would have to say honestly, it really comes back to the diet, really. I would have said in the past, I may have said it was pursuing my dreams, even when really not many people supported me. That was one of my big obstacles, but my biggest one really would have to be the diet. It was hard to actually overcome the sugar addiction that I had with like candies and sugars and just really getting on a clean, healthy track of my eating habits. That was my biggest struggle, but ultimately I overcame it today, as you know. So that's good, but it was rough. It was rough, when your body is used to having something, whatever it is, it's going to crave that same said thing for quite some time until you finally make a change. But even then, you gotta do it gradually because it's just like cigarettes, smoking cigarettes, or if you're addicted to alcohol. Sadly, if you're in that boat, you got to make sure to gradually cut that stuff out. Otherwise, if you go cold turkey, as most people know, it's never really a thing that works. So that's how it is with sugar too. Most people think sugar's it's just something people eat. Well, it's a drug in itself, I'll be honest. It's like its own drug because if you don't,
Mm.
keep a very conscious,
It's accessible.
awareness.
That's even
Exactly.
worse.
And that makes it even worse. So if you're not very conscious about what you're eating, how you're eating, not so much when you're eating, but what you're eating and how you're eating, that's what's really going to do it to you. And yeah, as long as you can keep a close eye on that, that helps. But that was something I had to overcome. That was something I had to overcome. Like it was hard. It was hard for me to eat clean and not, eat Twizzlers and all these other candies that I used to eat a lot. We'll just say it like that.
Okay. So you were mentioning about because you said you're cutting your carbs because of your show, and then you mentioned you're cutting carbs because that's gonna ease the cut. How does that help? Like carbs will help lose the water retention in your body?
Yeah. Yeah, so having, less carbs, just in general, and then also having less sodium or less salt, those two things will actually help you just get more cut because your body won't retain so much water. So it'll flush itself out a lot easier. So then you'll have less water weight, so to speak. So that's a lot of it. Just really cutting down your carbs, having less carbs, a low carb diet. Not that you have to have a low carb diet to be healthy or lose weight, but if you just want to get more cut looking, especially if you're trying to like do a show, this is where it would be good to have a low carb diet. And then less salt. Obviously, keep your protein high to maintain your muscle, especially in a cut, because when you cut, you're going to lose a little muscle, but if you don't, but if you have a high protein diet with it, it'll be less muscle lost. So definitely making sure to keep your protein high, but less carbs, less salt for reducing that water bloat or water retention.
Okay. Right. Few more questions about personal um, uh, personal, I would say, issues. How do you overcome anxiety? And how do you deal with setbacks?
Yeah, how I overcome anxiety for myself is first, I just analyze what's making me anxious from the very beginning. So I like to really pinpoint what the root cause is, because if I don't know the root cause, I won't know how to fix said anxiety from the get-go. So I always pinpoint the initial root cause of it from the very, very beginning, the very start. From there, I just write out, you know, everything that I can do to overcome that said, anxiety. So typically what's worked for me is writing out specifically from, 1 to however many things I can think of. Could be 1 to 50, 1 to 100, but just anything and everything that I'm grateful for. Could be the smallest or the biggest things or anything in between. And I'll just literally write out everything I'm grateful for and happy for in my life, whether it's, monetary, or maybe it's, loved one or family member, anyone, just anyone or anything. And so I write all that out from 1 to 50, 1 to 100, however many there are. And after seeing that, usually it ends up being a pretty big long list. So then I start feeling better. I'm like, wow, if I wrote this much and I'm grateful for this much, and I just wrote that out pen to paper right in front of my eyes, that's crazy. So, I mean, well, today may not be going great. I might feel a little anxious. This kind of calms my anxiety a little bit. So doing that's helped. And then, of course, a couple other things I do, or a few other things I do. Obviously, I go work out, because working out, helps release endorphins, which can help counteract your stress, your anxiety too. So just working out, whether it's weightlifting and cardio or just weightlifting, getting some stretching in and using that massage chair at the gym, that also helps after your workout to not only help with the recovery aspect, but also it will help with just obviously calming yourself and easing yourself. So getting like a massage, especially at a massage chair if you can. And then another thing I do too is I listen to, calming, relaxing music, meditating music, or binaural beats. And that not only helps me focus and concentrate on my,
Mm.
to do list or task throughout the day, but also it helps me just calm my mind, reduce my anxiety, and then just it helps me feel a lot better just in general. So that's most of it really. And last but not least, what I could say and throw in is getting out into nature, just and sometimes taking photos along the way, just getting out, going for a hike. I got some mountains where I live, not like right where I live, but about like an hour and a half away or an hour away. I can just go hike, see the mountains, and just being in nature automatically makes you a calmer person. It's crazy. It sounds cliche. It sounds, corny, too good to be true, but it's actually very effective. And I highly encourage anyone to do it, especially if you have access to mountains or even hills, just anything that's really serene, peaceful, beautiful in your area. And so getting out to nature, going for a hike, and then taking some photos sometimes, of said nature, and like the trees, the mountains, maybe the sunset, if there's a sunset, and just kind of relaxing from there, and maybe even meditating on the top of the mountain. So just a lot of different things. Yeah, just eating healthy, working out, hiking, seeing nature, using the massage chair, and just writing out everything I'm grateful for, like everything I'm grateful for. So that's mainly it in a nutshell, and that's how I overcome my anxiety.
So, what would you say? Um, Maybe I'll just package this into one. How do you stay motivated? And also, what gets you up in the morning?
Yeah. So how I stay motivated personally is really just visualizing. Well, two things really. Remembering my past success and achievements. That's the first thing. And then from there, visualizing my future goals and success coming to fruition and actually coming to reality, so to speak. So those are the things that really keep me motivated. And then from there, I stay consistent, because motivation, it gets you going, I like to say, but consistency keeps you growing. Yeah, I know that sounded a little cliche, but hey, it's
That's
true.
true.
It's so
That's
true.
true. Yeah.
Um, and what gets me up in the morning personally is kind of like what I already said. I mean, really just the overall drive and mission that I have from day to day, and just having that fire or intensity within me to want to achieve said things and just go all out and then seeing my success result from that hard work.
Okay. So, do you have a mantra that you live by? A specific quote?
Yeah. Yeah, my specific quote, honestly, right now is really, I'll just have to say it. It would have been, since I already said motivation gets you going, consistency keeps you growing. That that would be
Motivation
my
gets you going.
my
Consistency
mantra.
gets you
Now,
going.
my
Okay.
other mantra that I can throw in is there are no bad days, just learning days.
Mm-hmm.
So those are, if I can manage to have two mantras, those are my two mantras right there.
Okay. So, so no, normally I'd let the guests to give their own quote. Is this gonna be this like a quote that they want to leave the audience before we close this, and the world as your legacy? Is this the mantra, or do you want to throw in another mantra of your own and just, okay, this is yada 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 by Roman Fisher.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I would just have to say that honestly, we'll just use motivation gets you going, consistency keeps you growing. I did come up with that.
Okay. Yeah, okay, yeah. So I'm gonna quote that and put it by you.
Heck yeah.
Okay, I think we're good on time, Roman. That's the end of our episode for this. I hope to whenever I part ways with my guests, I tell them this is not gonna be the last one. Probably down some few years or few months, I could actually invite you again and talk about other things. I'll be following you on Instagram, and then see maybe at that time you're into something else, and perhaps we could talk about that.
Yeah.
Hope that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's cool with me.
Okay. So, okay, thank you so much, Roman, for your time. I will be publishing this, I think, in a few weeks' time. So just be on the lookout. And also for the listeners, if you guys want to connect with Roman directly, you can follow him through all the social media, which I will be posting it on the caption. And then he will reach out to you.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Until then, thank you, Roman. Bye bye. I'll see you again sometime.
Definitely sounds good. Sounds good. Take care.